Hi, welcome to the Crowdfunder Angus live hangout today. I'm here from Crowdfunder HQ in Newquay. Is cover all of the basics and the fundamentals, the foundation blocks in how to get yourself set up and crowdfunding successfully with a great project as part of Crowdfund Angus. So what I'm going to do is quickly share my screen and kick straight off with the presentation. Let's go straight to that. Fab. So first of all, just a little bit of an introduction as to who we are as Crowdfunder. Kind of stats on the page here, a little bit about who we are. We're the biggest platform in the UK. We've raised over £27 million with projects, and obviously that number's always on the up every day with more and more projects coming in and crowdfunding. So what is crowdfunding is often the first question that people will ask when they come to Crowdfunder. So there's 5 main types of crowdfunding that you may or may not be vaguely aware of, that you may have seen in the news or heard of someone else who's running a project. First one, which is the kind of thing where people are doing a fundraiser. They're just basically asking for sponsorship for a bike ride. That I know I get lots of those from my friends who are doing those kind of things. That's the first one that you'll probably be aware of. Rewards is very similar in that you're still going out to your community, your family, your friends, your connections, but instead of just getting a donation from them and that's it, that's the end of it. Instead, they get something back in return, and that thing we call a reward. It's basically different ways of acknowledging their contribution to your project. So it could be something physical. It could be a t-shirt. It could be a surfboard, for example. It could be a copy of a film or a piece of art. It could be more of an experience. It could be an invitation to come and join, an activity, or to come along to an event. There's all kinds of different things that you can offer, and we'll come on to that and explain a little bit more about how rewards work best a little bit later on. There's also community shares, which works very similar to equity, whereby a business, or in this case with community shares, a community organisation can offer up for people to actually own part of their organisation, of their business. And they do that by buying shares. Of course, there's lending as well, peer-to-peer lending, whereby you can raise money by borrowing directly from other people. But of course, you do have to pay that back, lending. So that's just a little bit of an overview on the main types. So let's focus in on reward, a bit of an example. Leeds Bread Co-op. So over there on the left, we have Phil. Now, Phil needed to raise £8,000 in order to buy a couple of ovens so that he could get his idea off the ground. He came to Crowdfunder. He set up a project. He was offering things like a loaf of bread, a cake, all the different kind of things that he could do very, very easily with his business as rewards. 144 people from his local community, his friends, his family, and all the rest, saw his project, liked the idea of it, thought, yeah, that's great. I'm going to pledge some money towards this to make this happen. I'm going to get a reward in return. And obviously you can see, at the end of the day, he raised all the money that he needed. You can see we've got Hugh Funny still there as well with the Crowdfunder check, and he was able to obviously set his business up and get that going, which obviously was the result that he was looking for. So on top of the funding, there's a few other things, there's a few other reasons why people would go down the crowdfunding route. Now obviously funding is the obvious one, that's in the name, that bit we know. In addition to that, you also get a lot of validation for your idea. So if you are thinking of setting up a new business, or perhaps installing a monument or putting on an event, the best way to find out, actually, do people want this to happen, is to crowdfund it. If people want it to happen enough, they'll contribute. If you get everything right, it's a good measure as to that actually there is a need for, or that there's a want for. Of course, if your project isn't successful, if you don't get any pledges, if no one's interested, then actually that's a really good flag for you that perhaps this isn't the right idea. Perhaps you need to go back and think about something different. In the whole process of doing a crowdfunding project, a lot of is talking about it, shouting about it, telling everyone that you know about your idea. You're doing marketing, essentially. So in doing that, of course, you're raising awareness about your project, about your business, or your community organisation, or whatever that might be in general. So you kind of end up killing two birds with one stone by marketing your crowdfunding project, in that a lot more people will have heard about you than when you started off. The other thing that it's really great at is taking those people who are already customers, they're already in your world, they already know about what you're doing, and actually turning those people into advocates. So taking a customer from being actually just someone who comes, and buys bread from the bakery, to someone who's telling all their friends about, how great your bread is, and they're doing that because they feel part of the project and they want to see you do well. And this is a really easy way for them to do it. So this is a bit of a preview as to what the Crowdfund Angus campaign page looks like. So as I touched on earlier, we're working with Angus Council. You can find this page at www.crowdfunder.uk/Angus. And you can see in there all the information about what it's all about. You can see some examples of projects. You can download funding packs and guides. And you can see there on that second tab, there's the funding tab, where you can find out a little bit more about the different pots of funding that may be available for your project. And we'll touch on that a little bit later as well. So we've broken down creating a project and having it right the way through to being successful into 3 key steps. And obviously we're going to start with step 1 right here. First thing that we need to do is plan your project. That's building your team, the people who are going to help you to crowdfund to make this happen. So identifying your crowd, and by your crowd we mean the people who are going to contribute your project, people who are going to pledge money. And obviously growing your crowd. So actually looking at who it is that we think we can access, who we think might want to support this project, and trying to widen that net a little bit. The example that we're going to use to work through this is the Wave Bristol. They ran a project a couple of years ago now to put in an artificial inland surfing lake. It's basically a big hole in a field that they're going to fill with water and put some big machines in. And they obviously raised a huge amount of money, over £200,000, with nearly 1,000 backers. What they did. First thing that they did, after sort of gathering up their team and saying, okay, I'm going to help out with this, I'm going to be in charge of this, etc., was they had a go at mapping out who they think was going to support their project. Now, what we've got here on the screen is a bit of an example as to what you use as a template for your network map. This is network mapping. If you have a copy of the fundraising pack from the Crowdfunder site, you'll find this on page 9. So you don't have to start with that we've plotted out, partners, local businesses, personal contacts. You can start with your own, but this is a really, really good place to start. It may be that actually there's quite a few other bubbles that should be on there for you, depending on your project. It might be actually people within a particular organisation that is helping out with the project. It might be people that live in a nearby town, or people that have been involved with a different kind of project in the past, and you think actually they're a really key group. But it's just an exercise in actually taking all of that information out of your brain and putting it onto paper. And that's something to definitely get used to doing as you're planning your crowdfunding project, is to process of taking out all of your assumptions, all of the stuff that you think, well, I know that already, I know who's going to back the project, but really actually putting pen to paper and getting it written down. And this is a really useful exercise to do in a group, to do with other people who are going to be able to help you out with your project. So you can be as specific as you like on this network map, and just a heads up, you're going to need a nice big piece of paper for this. So when it comes to mapping out, each one of those stems, each one of those bubbles, please do, go into detail and really think about, specifics. Any key people that you think should really be on here, any influencers, anyone who's sort of a gatekeeper to getting your message and your project in front of others. Going back to the Wave Bristol, they obviously mapped out who their crowd was going to be, and then they spent a good bit of time actually growing for that crowd. They did that through a number of different mediums. You can see some examples here. You can see they set up a Facebook page there. They set up an Instagram account and a Twitter. They also did had some features on Magic Seaweed, which is a surf forecast app, similar to like when you get a weather forecast app. It does it for surf, which obviously for them was a great place for them to find people who were relevant for their project. And you can see they started to build up a following. They did, a good few posts. They had lots of interesting content on there. They're getting people excited and getting them engaged way before they were planning on going live. And we can see there that timeline. It's just over a year, actually, from when they first decided to do this to when they actually hit target and actually went over their target as well, what we call overfunding. And you can see as you go along there, all of the things that they did. It wasn't instant, it wasn't overnight. Obviously, theirs is a very big project, so their timeline was quite large because it needed to be. They needed to really spend that time doing that pre-marketing, that warming up the crowd, that growing the crowd. So it might be that actually for you, you're actually in a pretty good position already. If you've already got, your Facebook page set up, if you already have Twitter, that's fantastic. You're one step ahead. All that we would advise you do is really nurture those feeds, those channels, and make sure that you're attracting as much attention on there as possible. So you've got some nice high numbers of people you can access ready for when you launch. So step 2 is actually getting down to the nitty-gritty of creating your project, physically logging onto the website and adding a project. It's really, really easy to do. Literally head to www.crowdfunder.co.uk and you'll see there right at the top of the page on the home page, there's a button you can click and you can get straight in to start crowdfunding. If you've ever set up a Facebook profile or Twitter or any sort of account online, really, it's a very similar process. It's a bunch of forms with little boxes. They'll ask you a question, you fill it out. Title of your project, you type that in there. How much do you want to raise? You pop that in there. It's really, really easy. Something to remember as you're creating your project is everything that you put in there can be edited, changed, deleted, scrapped, and started again if you need to. So don't worry about getting this 100% perfect first time through. Just pop some information in there. Just put anything in for now and just kind of familiarize yourself with the process and what it's going to ask you for. So you can start thinking about actually coming up with the best information, the best answers to go in those boxes. A really key part of crowdfunding is being able to tell your story in a way which is going to engage people and get them motivated and excited about your idea and interested in what you're doing. There's 2 main ways that you can do that. One is through your description, which is the big bit of text that goes on your page. The other bit is video. Creating a video is really, really good idea to do this if you can. Now, it's not essential. Really important to sort of emphasize that you can put your crowdfunding project live with just a description, with text and with images. I recommend that you do video if you can, particularly in today's world with the way that people expect to kind of interact online. It's expected that you can have that medium on there, and it allows you to connect in a much more personal way with the people who are coming onto your page and wanting to learn about what you're doing. They say, a picture tells 1,000 words. Well, a video does it even better. A couple of key things though: keep it short and sweet. Don't go on forever. It doesn't need to be a Spielberg production. phone, you know, an iPhone is absolutely fine. Doesn't need to be any more technical than that. Definitely get someone to help you out. So get someone else to sort of hold the camera or kind of direct a little bit, you know, maybe to give you pointers. Make sure that you're doing it somewhere where we can hear what you're saying. A lot of times I watch really fantastic crowdfunding videos, but you just miss every other word, because either they've thought, oh, it'd be really nice to do this on the beach, but you can hear the crashing waves, or it'd be really nice to do this in the town centre, but all you can hear is the crowds and the traffic. So just a little top tip from me is make sure that your speech, the thing that you're talking about, is really, really clear, or we'll completely miss the point of what you're trying to tell us. It's a really good idea before you start doing your video to write down your key points and just try and what it is that you're really trying to say. What is it you need to make sure you cover? I would actually avoid doing a full script, because then it ends up being a little bit wooden sometimes, and you just kind of feel like a newsreader, like you're kind of reading, you know, something which has been pre-written. It's much better to have your key points and then speak from the heart. Do a bit of ad-lib, you know, figure out what happens. And of course you can do as many takes as you like. I would just keep doing it, keep going again, and just recording every time you do it. You might find that speaking will change, and you'll actually decide, actually we want to say this instead, and that's all fine. It's good to kind of have a bit of fun with it. So we've got some great examples of videos. I'm just going to have this one playing, but I know that over there in Videoland you won't be able to hear this very well. This one you can find online. If you search for stilt skin, you can find it on the Crowdfunder site. Just having a look at kind of the basis of what they're doing here, you can see that they've got happy smiley faces on the video, which is really, really important. They've got the actual kids themselves who are going to benefit from the project on the video, which is a really great way to do it. It's very friendly, it's very fun. The kids actually do a fantastic job of explaining what the project is all about and why it's important. And it's under 2 minutes, which is really, really nice sort of length of time. So we're just gonna keep going on this. Setting your target. It's a bit of a balancing act with setting target. And people sometimes, you know, say to me, first of all, you know, what should my target be? But actually, it's kind of depends on a few things. Between how much money you need to actually make your project happen, how much money you think you can raise from your crowd. So looking back at that network map that we did before, it's actually quite a useful exercise to go through that network map and try and put some numbers against each of those groups. So you could say, okay, you know, I've got these 10 family members. Okay, I reckon they'll probably pledge, you know, £20 each. Great, so I can probably get £200 from there. And just try and give yourself a little bit of an idea as to what might be realistic. Obviously, match that up against how much you need, and see what kind of number you come out with. Stretch targets are also something which is unique to something we do at Crowdfunder. So actually, I'd like to raise £500, first of all, in order to buy this piece of equipment. But if we could raise £1,000, then we could get 2 of them, or actually we could get the next level up. We could get the you know, the premium version. So what you might want to do would be to actually set your target to 500, because that's the minimum that you need. Once you hit that target, that 500, to have what we call a stretch target, which is basically a new target, a bigger target that we can now go for. It's a really good way to keep your crowd motivated, to keep people interested in what you're doing, and to show them that actually we could do with a bit more money. 500 wasn't the end goal. We can still do something. We can do more if, you know, if we're able to raise more. And again, you can have a look at that and see that for yourself when you go through having a go at adding your project to the website. There's 2 options that you can choose from when crowdfunding as well on Crowdfunder. First one is all or nothing. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Let's again say that might be £500. And you can say, okay, if I don't raise 500, we don't get anything. It's 500 or nothing. It's a really good way to, again, use that to motivate people within your crowd, and actually to motivate yourself as well. 400 won't do, 499 won't do. 500, that's what we need. The other way of doing it is what we call flexi funding, where you can say, we'll keep whatever it is that we raise. Ideally, we'd like 500, but actually anything that we raise, we can put to good use. I would always recommend, if you're unsure, on generally going for all or nothing. The reason being, all or nothing projects, the average pledge is higher and they tend to raise more. We find that with flexi funding projects, that motivation just isn't there quite as strongly. Times when you're sort of engaging with your crowd and kind of trying to get people interested and excited and riled up, about what you're doing, it's that little bit harder when they look at the project and see, well, whatever they raise, they're going to get something. Other thing to really bear in mind when setting your target is that there are obviously fees that have to be paid from the amount that you raise, and you also need to think about any costs that you are going to be incurred when you deliver your rewards. So the way that the crowdfunder fee works is there's a 5% fee that we take for any project which is successful, any project which goes through. There's also obviously VAT on that, and there are some payments, some payment fees associated with the different providers. So whether you set up credit card payments or PayPal, you also want to check on what fees they might charge. You can find a full breakdown online as well. If you just search for fees, you can find that in there. So let's talk about rewards then. And this is often the place where people who are very new to crowdfunding, they get a little bit stuck. They go, I don't have a product, what can I offer? And actually, there's lots of things you can offer. If we were to take the example of a community group, of an organisation, again, I don't have a product, what can I offer? Well, actually, you could organise an open evening, you could put on a show, you could do a talent show for the kids, you could do a barbecue, you could do a Christmas fair. There's loads and loads of things that you could do in order to invite people from within your local community around and celebrate with them actually your success, or just to kind of get everyone in a room and in terms of sort of the longevity of your project, to actually get them a little bit more involved is quite a good way of doing that. Products are always a good one, a tangible thing that people can hold in their hand. So a lot of people do things like t-shirts. For foodie projects, they do recipe cards, or like Phil did with Leeds Bread Co-op, actually food products themselves. There's all kinds of different things that you can offer depending on exactly what your project is, and if you have a business, on what that is. So experiences as well are a really, really great one. If, for example, you're raising money for a allotment or a garden, community orchard, something like that, why not invite people down to come and plant some trees? And actually, you could even go one step further than that and give them a little name tag that goes into the ground, which sort of says, this is our family tree. What the Wave Bristol did with their rewards was they actually had an experience where you could come along and actually help dig the hole. It was called the Dig Party. Sounds a bit bonkers, but actually loads of people went for it. It was something that was really, really popular. It was a bit different, a bit kooky, very cool, and it gave people an opportunity to get involved on a really personal basis directly with the project. Thank yous, kind of an obvious one, but actually really, really key for a lot of smaller projects, community projects, where we think that the main motivation for people backing your project is because they think it's a good idea. But actually, these little thank yous are little sweeteners. They're ways of, instead of getting £5, maybe getting 10, and actually making people feel valued and that their contribution, we're very, very grateful for it. And we find that with rewards compared to donation, that people actually come back time and time again. They're a little bit more invested because it's been a two-way interaction rather than just a one-way street where they throw the money in the bucket and walk away. Because there's been that exchange where they're giving you that monetary support and they get something back in return, it really does sort of cement them as an advocate and as a supporter. So different ways of doing thank yous. It could be something as simple as a shout out on social media. It could be a handwritten letter. It Could be a photo of your sports team holding up their company banner, something they can put on the wall. It might be actually that your name appears on a wall in a changing room. You could have could name a meeting room after a group of people. You can do things like plaques. You can do things like sponsoring an annual award that you might want to give out. That's a really good one. So there's all different kinds of things that you could do. And again, with all of these rewards, I would definitely get your team together, get yourselves in a room and have a really good brainstorm and really think about everything that we could offer. Don't be afraid of being too wild, too crazy, too different. It's the best thing to do is to write down as many ideas as you can think of and then actually refine them later. Go with the ideas first, figure out what's practical later. Really, really good way to approach rewards. So the final step in being a successful crowdfunding project is, of course, to actually get the project live, get some pledges on there, and get it funded. So the key things to do here is launching the project, getting it live up on the site so that people are able to start making those pledges and making those contributions. Really key to get off to a great start. And I don't think I can emphasize this enough. Any project sat on 0% pledged, zero funded, for someone coming in who hears about your idea and goes, oh, that sounds really cool, I'm going to go check it out. They get to the page, it's on 0. It's very deflating. It's very demotivating. It's really, really hard to then show those people that this is a good idea. That social proof is a really good word. Social proof is whereby people look around and go, well, who else is backing it? Because if other people are backing it, it helps to tell me that this is a good idea. So you've always got to fake it till you make it a bit at the start. Make sure that you've got at least 10 people lined up, ready to put money into your project as soon as it goes live. That's a really good place to start. Anyone that you send a Christmas card to, let's get in touch with them and see if we can get them to pledge on the project right at the start. Get that commitment. Once obviously we're off the starting blocks, we're getting those pledges in, we're talking about the project. Really key to keep your supporters up to date. Those people who've put their hands in their pocket and contributed towards your idea, towards your project. We really want to make sure that they feel valued, that they feel like they're in the loop, and actually that they feel part of the driving force behind making your idea happen. And of course, the final one, the most important one, is share, share, share. Anyone you've ever met is a good place to start. So all different kinds of channels, different ways of doing this, from social media to email, to picking up the phone, going to community events, putting something on a notice board, and all the rest of the things that go there. So let's have a look at Otter Farm then. Now, Otter Farm are a little charity based in Devon. They actually they're actually on Grand Designs very, very soon. So if you watch out on the new series, you'll actually be able to spot them. It's a really fantastic project. They were building a kitchen garden school. And you can see we took that screen grab just before the project closed. They actually ended up raising over £60,000, which is really, really fantastic. So let's have a look at what happened when they went live. Now you can see launch day back there on the 17th of February. And you can see just how high pledging was on that first day. That was all because they'd done lots of work before going live in speaking to people that they were already connected with, that they were already close with, telling them about the fact that this project was going to go live and getting those commitments from people. Telling them, there's going to be this reward that's available for this amount of money. Can we get a commitment from you that you're going to put that money in on day one? They did that really well. You can see that. Now, as the project sort of progressed over the weeks, you can see that there's that general sort of dip in the middle. And there's a few little peaks every time they did something big, every time they did a big mail out, every time they put something new online. You can see there was a little peak. It went up again. The shortest way of explaining it is the more you do, the more pledges you get. When you do stuff, you get pledges. Looking towards the end then of that timeline, we can see, from sort of the 8th of March onwards, we really saw those numbers go back up again. And that's when they came into their final week. Generally speaking, this is a very sort of standard graph, something that you'll see for most projects. Peak at the end. The bit in the middle is the bit where you've got to keep it running. You've got to keep doing stuff to keep it going and keep people interested. Worth mentioning as well on this that you can see all of this information on your crowdfunder dashboard when your project is live. So you can see these stats and keep track of what's happening and how you're doing. So I mentioned keeping your backers up to date. You can do this really easily through project updates via the crowdfunder site. When you're logged in, you literally click on that updates tab and a little text box opens up, just like as if you were writing an email. Which you can see up there that they've done, and then you can put in some text. What happens when you send an update is two things. First of all, it appears publicly on that updates tab for anyone who visits your page to see. Anyone can see that. The other thing that happens is that it actually gets emailed directly to everyone who's backed your project so far, straight into their inbox. So it's a good way of speaking directly to people, to keeping them in the loop, but also showing the world, any other potential people who haven't backed the project yet, that there's lots happening behind the scenes, that there's things bubbling away, that you're active, you're engaged, and it's all very exciting. With updates, generally I would keep to sending around about 2 or 3 every couple of weeks. So maybe 1 or 2 a week. You don't want to be doing too much more than that, or people end up with a very full inbox full of your project updates. Make sure that you're not just sending an update for the sake of it. Keep it to stuff which is going to be worthwhile people reading. Tell them something new that's happening behind the scenes. Let them know about a new exciting reward. Have you had some press? Has a celebrity found out about your project and supported it? Have you reached a milestone? A number of backers or in amount raised. Have you got some new content, new images, new testimonials, new video clips? Anything like that that's new and happening and exciting, that's what we want to include in there. Otter Farm, I know I mentioned the Grand Designs connection earlier. We can see that good old Kevin MacLeod managed to get a tweet out for them, which was really fantastic. You can see those numbers at the bottom. 65 retweets and 59 likes. One of those things with social media where it's really great at driving awareness. You've got to keep doing it though. One Facebook post, one tweet is just not enough. I think the stats say on average that the lifespan of a tweet is about 7 seconds. If someone isn't logged in then, they won't see it. So you've really got to keep churning it out. I'd make sure you've got at least one post going up every day on Twitter and do one post every day on Facebook. What we don't want to do is just talk about your crowdfunding project. We want to make sure that there's other content in there going out, that you're talking about other exciting things that are going on that are linked to the project. And we don't want to just be writing, pledge on my project, support my project, I've got a project. You can do better than that. We want to talk about exciting rewards. We want to talk about all of the key points behind why this idea is worthwhile. What makes it unique? What makes it exciting? What makes it relevant to the people that you're speaking to? Any interesting little tidbits, testimonials, images, all of that kind of thing. The main job that we want to do with your social media posts is to drive traffic to your crowdfunder page. Let your crowdfunder page convert them into believers, convert them into backers. We just want to get people interested. So in Angus, obviously, Crowdfund Angus has been live for quite a while now. I've got 3 really great examples of people in your area around Angus who have already run projects on Crowdfunder and are already making things happen. This one you may have heard of. It was a really, really big project. They raised over £50,000, which is really quite staggering, to put in a statue of AC/DC legend Bon Scott. You may have even seen the statue in real life, and you may have not even known that actually they raised that money all through Crowdfunder. They had pledges coming from lots and lots locally. A fair few from AC/DC fans all over the world as well, though. And that's the really great thing, that you can open up these doors with Crowdfunder being an online platform, instead of just, raising money sort of, out in the world from your local community. You can actually also get that support from further afield, and anyone all over the world, in various countries, can pledge on Crowdfunder, because we have the payment providers set up like PayPal, which you'll have heard of. That's really, really wide. Another great one is little town of Arbroath. They've actually done this a couple of times now, funding their fireworks display. Obviously, 5th of November is coming up relatively soon. And it's actually something that we see very common on Crowdfunder, is communities raising money to put on events like these that maybe in the past would have been funded through different means. But these days, actually, the community are taking it into their own hands and saying, we want this to happen, we're going to fund it, we're going to put it on, which is fantastic. Another really fab one is TapFit, which was run by a great guy called Kevin, who's actually starting up a new class called TapFit. It's the latest craze sweeping America, and he's bringing it to Scotland. So he used, for his crowd, all of the ladies and gents who were already signed up to his other classes. That was a really great basis for him to start with, because he knew that they loved what he was doing and that they were exactly the right kind of people who would be interested in his project. So that was a really, really great place for him to start. And as you can see, he was successful in reaching his target and actually going past it as well, and raised over £2,000. And that was just a month or so ago that he did that. So if you're looking at doing a project on Crowdfunder as part of Crowdfund Angus, a couple of things I wanted to point you to. So there is actually extra funding available for projects in Angus. Now, there's various criteria. There's 4 different funds. What I would advise doing is going through to that Crowdfund Angus page, which again is www.crowdfunder.co.uk/Angus, and actually clicking on each of these boxes and having a good read through the criteria as to what you need to do and who you need to be in order to be eligible for these funds. There's a huge amount of funding available when you look through that. So definitely go on there, check that out, and see if there's something which might be available for you. It's really, really simple, the way in which it works. You add your project to Crowdfunder, just as you ordinarily would. You then fill out the application form that you've decided is relevant and right for you. You start crowdfunding. That's really key. You don't get any extra funding without doing the crowdfunding first. Really, really important that you show these funders that you mean business and that you've got support locally. So you start crowdfunding, you put your project live. If you tick all the boxes, you fit the criteria, and actually you're eligible for that fund, you can then actually get that extra funding right onto your crowdfunding project, and you can make your idea happen. It's really, really quite simple. What I would do from here, if you're interested in getting going and starting doing this today, definitely head to the Crowdfunder website, head to Crowdfund Angus, have a look at the projects on there of the fundraising pack, and have a scan through. Everything that we've spoken about today in terms of planning your project and creating it and promoting it, we go into in a lot more detail in those fundraising packs. It's a really, really good place to start. Add your project, have a go, play around with it, get some content in there, refer back to your fundraising pack, and please do let us know if you have any questions or if you need a hand with anything. We're here to try and make this as easy and as trouble-free as possible for you. So do not hesitate to get in touch with us if you have any questions. That's where I'm going to pretty much wrap it up for today. I'm just going to come back out of this and see if I can figure out how to sort of tie this off. So hope that was useful for you. Do let us know, as I say, if anything wasn't clear, if you have any extra questions. And best of luck with crowdfunding your project. Thanks.